Om Sang Saraswati Namaha. Namaste. Namaste, everyone. And tonight we're going to begin chapter 3. Let's begin with our recitation. Let's go back and think a little bit of what we're saying. And the clarity of pure devotion said, you who are worshipped by the people, Krishna, if you consider intelligence to be superior to action, why then do you counsel this dreadful action? Embodiment of the functions of creation, preservation, and transformation, Krishna. So, Krishna, we're calling you who are worshipped by the people. And you said that intelligence is superior to action, so why are you telling me to act? If you think intelligence is better than action, then I should just sit and think about something intelligent. Why should I pick up my bow and my arrows and start fighting? My intellect is confused because of these conflicting statements. Tell that one thing by which, without a doubt, I may obtain the highest good. And the respected Supreme Divinity said, O you without sin, in this world 2 paths of perfection have been elucidated by me, union with wisdom according to the enumeration of the principles, that's Sankhya, and union with actions are the names or kinds of union. So there are 2 basic kinds of paths to perfection. You can either philosophize or you can do it. Man cannot attain freedom from action without undertaking actions. Nor can he attain renunciation nor perfection of complete absorption. There is nothing you can do. You can't even maintain your body without action. You got to breathe. That's an action. So you can't attain freedom from action without undertaking an action. You've got to do something affirmative to achieve that state of freedom from action. You got to do something to get there. Sadhana, tapasya. Undoubtedly, there is no being born who can refrain from all activity even for a moment. Otherwise, you won't be anymore. For all beings are required to perform action by the attributes of nature. Your nature will compel you to act whether you like it or not. You will enjoy the fruit of your actions. Who restrains the organs of action while sitting? That's sanasana. While the mind remembers the objects of senses, that's most of us. Daydreaming, going to the movies. Such is called a foolish soul, a person of untrue behavior, and we're untrue because we give the appearance of being in meditation, and inside we know what's going on. We make a pretense, whereas the true people will just go to the movies and enjoy it. The rest are pretenders. Clarity of pure devotion, who has undertaken to discipline the organs of knowledge and action, has detached his mind from worldly feelings. He comes into union with action by means of the organs of action, and this is superior. Okay, so now here we are using our knowledge and acting with motivation, with a specific intent. The intention is to put a stop to the action, or to dissect the action from the attachment. This is superior. Perform the activities of your discipline, for action is superior to refraining from action. What bogus? You can't refrain from action. But action is superior, motivated action, of your discipline, your sadhana, is superior than pretending not to act at all, because everybody knows it's false. You gotta act. Or the only person who doesn't have to act is a corpse. And those are the choices. Even your body cannot be maintained by refraining from action. Go ahead, hold your breath. Only those actions performed for the purpose of sacrifice are efficient behaviors free from attachment. And hereby, sacrifice we're calling yajna. And yajna means union. So if the purpose of your action is the perfection of union, those are called efficient behaviors free from attachment. That's karma yoga. Son of who takes away the deficiency of others, Arjuna. All other actions in this world are actions of attachment. So there are two kinds of actions. Either you can strive for the highest union through action, or you can act with attachment. Those are about the two choices we have. The Lord of all beings born created mankind in the beginning with sacrifice, and said, by this you will attain prosperity and the fulfillment of all desires. Through this you may deeply intuit the gods, and the gods may deeply intuit you. Each deeply intuiting the other will bring about the highest good. So here through sacrifice, through this motivated behavior which strives for the ultimate union, we achieve prosperity and the fulfillment of all desires. If you pursue your desires, you'll find no end of desires. But through sacrifice, you will achieve prosperity and the fulfillment of the desires, and you may intuit the gods, and the gods will intuit you, and there is a very, very pure relationship, a bond between earth and the divine. And each intuiting the other, the humanity intuiting the gods and the gods intuiting humanity, brings about the highest good, the cessation of that attachment. Deeply intuiting the attitude of sacrifice, the gods will bestow the highest enjoyment. You know the Mahayogi is the Mahabhogi. He's not a Chotabogi. He's not a little enjoyer, but the great yogi enjoys Prakriti. Infinite consciousness enjoys his relationship with nature. And by the attitude of the sacrifice, the gods bestow the highest enjoyment, the enjoyment of the fruit of the relationship, the union with nature. Those who enjoy the gifts from the gods without offering to them are surely thieves. So if you're not taking prasad and saying, thank you, God, for giving this to me, then you're a thief, because it all came from God anyway. So there must be some acknowledgement every time we partake. The virtuous who partake from the remains of sacrifice, that's the prasad of the sacrifice, erase the effects of all sins. Lowly sinners cook and eat for their own selfishness, like the bag of potato chips next to the steering wheel. That's just for me. I forgot to say, hey, Brahmarpanam, Brahmabhir, Brahmagnam, Brahmanaputam. Thank you, God, for consecrating this offering and giving me energy so that I can do your work in the world. And this is the attitude that we're striving to maintain, and striving for that remembrance all the time. So if we retake the remains of the sacrifice, we erase the effects of all confusion, all sin, all that will be gone, because we are in a state of remembrance. All existence evolves from food, and from rain does food arise. From sacrifice does the rain pour forth, and sacrifice comes from disciplined action. So from the disciplined action, from our sadhana, comes the sacrifice, and the sacrifice brings the rain nourishes the food, and the food nourishes the beings who sacrifice. And by sacrifice we mean striving for union, as well as offering to the fire. From the supreme divinity has come forth knowledge of action, and from supreme divinity has come forth knowledge of that which is imperishable. Therefore, supreme divinity is always eternally established in sacrifice. So the action, of course, is transitory. It's a transient action that brings us closer to the eternal. So in acknowledging the supreme divinity through our action, we become eternally established in sacrifice. It becomes our nature. It becomes our swabhav, our intrinsic nature. Whoever does not respect the movement of this cycle lives a useless life of attachment to the impure senses, O son of Shiva, tells Arjuna. That is, there are two choices. Either you do it for me, or we do it for thee. We will do. So either those are the two possibilities. Every action, either it's motivated by selfishness for me, or it's motivated by surrender for thee. That man who delights in his own soul, who is contented with his own soul, and who is satisfied only with his own soul, he knows of nothing left to be done. It has been accomplished. For him neither is there a purpose for completed actions, nor for incomplete actions, and he regards all beings of existence without selfishness, one family. Vasudeva Kutumbakam. The entire universe, the entire manifested universe is one family. And all the actions that were completed are only valuable insofar as they brought me into this harmony with my own soul. And all the actions which are left to be completed are valuable only insofar as they bring me into harmony with my own soul. And there is one goal of all action, and that is the wisdom, the devotion, the love, the communion, the sacrifice, when one is in communion with his or her own soul. Therefore, always efficiently perform all actions without attachment. For the man who performs actions without attachment attains the supreme. And that is karma yoga. Through karma, through the action, we achieve union with God. For only through actions did Janak and others become established in the attainment of perfection. Janak here is, of course, a reference to the king of Mithila, Sita's father, the father of the universe. He became a Jivan Mukta, liberated while he was living, because he performed his activities with such a perception of freedom and freedom from attachment. In fact, there's a great story. Shukdev was born from the fire. He was the son of Vedas. It's a really long story. I'm going to give you the Sankshipta, the abbreviated version, an executive summary. Shukdev was born from the Vedic fire from when Vedas was performing yajna, and he grew up in the ashram of Brihaspati, who was his guru. And he studied the Vedas, and he came back to his father as a graduate. And he said, "Okay, Father, what shall I do now?" What's the next step in my life? And Beta Vyas said, it says in our scriptures that a young man who was a brahmachari, he learned to make a contribution to life. The next step is to become a grahastha and to marry and to engender children and to make a contribution to life. And thereafter you will be qualified to become a vanaprastha, with one foot in the house and one foot outside of the house. And then you become sannyas and you leave this world of attachment. And Sukdev said, Father, I was born from Veda Vyas who knew the Vedas. I was born from the divine fire. I came out illuminated. I had a guru like Brihaspati, who was the guru of all the gods. Why are you telling me to get married? Why don't I just go off and become a sannyasi and sit and meditate for the rest of my life? And Father said, no, Sukdev, Dharma proclaims that you will observe all 4 ashrams. And Sukdev said, a man who is tied to a pillar can hope for escape. But a man who is bound by attachment to a wife and family and household and having to earn a livelihood can never hope for escape. This is an absurd proposition. And Veda Vyas said, if you don't believe me, then go see King Janak. So Sukdev went to see King Janak, and he traveled across India to Janak's palace in Mithila, and he came to the city gates, and there was a soldier outside saying, who are you? What do you want here? And Sukdev said, oh my gosh, I knew it was foolish to come. I have no need to come. Why shall I tell you who I am and what I want here? The king has so much attachment that he screens everybody who comes into the nation. I can't even get in without a stamp in my passport. Forget it, I'm sorry I came this far, it was a waste of time, I'm going back. The guard said, holy Brahmin, I didn't mean any offense. It's my job, it's my duty to question everybody who comes here and see if they have a legitimate purpose to come. But I can tell you're a holy Brahmin, you've come from so far, I know you're not going to cause any trouble. Please, go right ahead. Sukdev went and entered into the city, and he roamed around. He saw normal people conducting normal transactions and normal functions, and he said, there's nothing exceptional about this community that says they are guided by an enlightened king who is liberated while in the body. And so Sukdev went to the palace, and he was greeted. The son of Janak's guru, Veda Vyas, was Janak's guru. The son has come, and he was respected and given new clothes and a bath and fresh food and brought into an audience with the king. And the king said, what do you want? And Sukdev said, I was born from the divine fire, from a father like Veda Vyas. I had Brihaspati, the guru of the gods, as my preceptor, and even after studying the Vedas for 20 years and graduating and coming home to my father, I said, Father, what shall I do next? And Father said, get married. And I said, absurd! I want to take sannyas. And Janak said, no, Sukdev, I think you should follow your father's advice. You should get married. And it says in our scriptures that there are 4 ashrams and everyone should observe all 4 of them. And you have to make a contribution to this world. And this is your opportunity to do so. You will enjoy the pleasures of the world, make your contribution, and then become a sannyasi. Don't trust your senses, even if you have no idea or no desire right now. Who knows, in the future, maybe you will have desires to enjoy a worldly life or a conjugal relationship. And Sukdev said, what? They're calling you liberated while living. They're calling you a jivan mukta. They're calling you enlightened. I don't see any signs of enlightenment. Who are you to tell me? You've got guards outside the city protecting your wealth from thieves. You've got normal people in the marketplaces doing normal things, haggling over goods and prices and things like that. Don't you enjoy all this kingly appurtenances, and you aren't attached? You are administrating this kingdom without attachment? Nonsense! And Sukdev got mad. And Janak said, Sukdev, what you say is correct. But there is one caveat that I would like to add. All of this is not mine. I am the custodian for another. And therefore I am administering this kingdom with the greatest efficiency with which I'm capable, but I know it's not mine. Ramakrishna used to talk about the maidservant who was working in the master's house, and she was taking care of the little children and bouncing them on her knee, and all the time her mind was thinking about her village and her own home. So, for only through actions did Janak and others become established in the attainment of perfection. They became filled with perfection through acting without attachment, knowing that they were custodians for a higher power. You should act only with perception of the harmony of the world. That's pretty neat. In whatever way the best of men behave, they establish an example which may be respected by other men. The best of men, all of humanity has an obligation that our lives will become an example to others. O son of she who excels, Arjuna, for me there is no remaining obligation in the three worlds. I'm Krishna. I'm the Lord of the three worlds. There is nothing left undone. There is no remaining obligation in the three worlds. Nothing worth attaining which has not been attained. And even so, I persist in action. I'm the Lord of the three worlds. There's nothing that hasn't been done. There is nothing left to be done. There is nothing worth doing. And even so, I must continue. For if ever I did not persist in unwearied action, men will respect my example in all ways. Son of she who excels, Arjuna. If I do not perform action, these worlds will perish, and I will have become the cause of confusion which could destroy mankind. You can't. Breathing is an action. Eating is an action. Descendant of the light of wisdom, Arjuna, the ignorant act with attachment to their actions. The intelligent should act without attachment, seeking the harmony of the world. Do not try to cause an alteration in the intelligence of the ignorant who are attached to their action. Leave them alone. If they are ignorant and they are attached to their action, just let them be. Don't waste your time trying to convert those who have not asked the question. You can answer the question once the question is asked, but please don't go to the airport and pass out incense. The intelligent one who is united with efficient behavior will take delight in all action. Everything we do. It's a joy, it's a privilege, what an honor to be able to demonstrate the sincerity of my love, my devotion, my affection for you. And here it is. I don't have to dance down Main Street singing Hare Krishna. I can act, and you'll know. You'll hear the song. All actions are performed by the attributes of nature. The soul, deluded by his own ego, thinks his ego self to be the doer. O one of mighty arms, Arjuna, who knows the principles, all the tattvas, how how to bring your awareness inside. Distinguishes the attributes of action. If you know how the outside, the karmindriyas relate to the gyanendriyas, and then you control the gyanendriyas and the karmindriyas and come inside. You distinguish the attributes of action, understanding that the attributes of nature are evolving around each other. He remains free from attachment. This is the three gunas. Aim, ring, cling, chamunda, ibiche. They're moving in the paradigm of reality as perceived by consciousness. It is nature acting according to her nature because that's her nature. And those who are deluded by the attributes of nature remain attached to the attributes of their action. All right, what's in it for me? Who acts in accordance with his knowledge should not associate with those foolish beings who do not act according to what they know to be right. And that's why we hippies sit on the mountaintop rather than in downtown. Because we don't need to associate with those who don't wish to hear. Who wish to hear will make the journey. They will come of their own volition. With full renunciation, fix your consciousness in spiritual knowledge, performing all actions for me. Becoming free from desire, free from attachment, fight this disease of darkness. Wow, what strong admonition. Here we are beset with this disease of darkness, the ignorance of selfish attachment. And now warriors, stand up, pick up your bows and arrows and aim them at the enemy. All the voices chattering inside our brains saying, what's in it for me? We have to slay those demons. With full renunciation, fix your consciousness in spiritual knowledge. Those men who always follow this doctrine of mine with the highest faith, free from envy, they become free through action. And this is the crux of the issue. How many of us are seeking freedom from action? Enlightenment means I can be perpetually lazy. The world will serve me. I can sit on a throne and everyone will come and bow down and bring gifts and I'll give blessings and pontificate. It isn't that way. The greatest amongst you will be the servant. The greatest will be the servant. So they become through freedom through action, not freedom from action. Those who are adamant and do not follow this doctrine of mine know that they are deluded in their lack of wisdom and lost in unconsciousness. Sorry. The wise man makes efforts according to his own perception, according to his own nature. All living beings follow their nature. How can they be stopped? Each one of us has a swabhav, an intrinsic nature, and we're following that nature and letting that nature evolve and coming into contact with other forces which can inspire that nature and influence that nature to evolve in the most positive direction, and that's called satsang, the community with truth, communion in truth. So when we have to follow our nature, and yet we can guide our nature too. We guide our nature by putting ourselves in closer and closer proximity to the positive influences in our lives. Come close to the Guru. Come close to God. In the relationship between the senses and the objects of perception, both attraction and repulsion are situated. Everything we perceive, we will be either attracted or repulsed. Avoid the influence of both of them, for they are adversaries who obstruct the way. Preferable is one's own ideal of perfection, however deficient, to another's ideal, however well observed. Even poverty in the pursuit of one's own ideal is better, while another's ideal is filled with fear. If we're constantly striving to conform our behavior to something that we don't believe in, it will always be an external imposition and regarded as an obstruction or a burden or a responsibility, an obligation, that we are lifting this obligation in trying to conform our behavior to someone else's ideal. Follow your own ideals and create from that ideal a value system that works for each individual. And then we can let our ideal evolve, and our values evolve, and our path evolve. Arjuna Vacha, clarity of pure devotion, said, then why does man move to unite with sin? By what force is he driven, even against his will? Good question. The respected Supreme Divinity said, desire and anger arise from nature's quality of passion. They are insatiable and terribly wicked. Know them as the enemies. So we have an attraction, and we see something, we like it, we have an attraction, then we have a desire, then we get angry because our desire is not filled, and here we are battling with these enemies. As fire is covered by smoke, the highest ideal covered by imperfection, the fetus hidden in the womb, just so is wisdom hidden by these enemies. So all our wisdom is obscured when we get angry and filled with desire. The wisdom of the wise is hidden by these eternal enemies in the form of selfish desires, which are insatiable like fire, O son of he who takes away the deficiency of others, Arjuna. So if we have, even if we have wisdom, and we are the wise, these eternal enemies in the form of selfish desires cover that wisdom. They obscure the wisdom, we can't see the wisdom, we only see the desire. The senses, the mind, and intellect are said to be their residence. Through these, the wearer of the body becomes deluded, and wisdom becomes hidden. Therefore, O best of the descendants of the light of wisdom, Arjuna, first you must control the senses, killing this evil which destroys wisdom and the application of wisdom. You got to use the wisdom too. The senses are said to be great. Greater than the senses is the mind. Greater than the mind is the intellect. Greater than the intellect is he or she, the wearer of the body. Oh, one of mighty arms, Arjuna, knowing that which is greater than the intellect, subdue your own self by means of your own soul. Kill this enemy in the form of desire, which is so difficult to overcome. And there ends the third chapter. Are there any questions? Please.
Swamiji, it's either, every action is either for you or for me or for thee.
Right.
Is it always obvious which? And when it's not, because the mind tends to play around.
We need discrimination then. We pray for discrimination so we can understand where is my selfish interest lie in this, hidden in this action. And if we ask ourselves that question again and again, we may realize that action was not so altruistic as I originally assumed. Are there other questions? Please.
Swamiji, in verse 7, Lord Krishna says, he comes into union with actions by means of the organs of action.
Yes.
Now we know that there are 5 organs of action.
Correct.
The hands, the legs, the organ of generation and reproduction, and the organ of excretion, and the tongue.
Good.
Now, doesn't that mean that just sitting and breathing is not a means for union? Because we are not using our organs of action then.
No, here he means all the organs with action, which act, including the lungs, including the respiratory system, the entire digestive system. We're not exclusively calling it just these 5 organs. Everything that acts. We don't have any limitations here. Do you have any questions?
Michael from Colorado asks, can Swamiji define what he means by nature?
Unfair. Namaste, Michael and Karen. How are you tonight? There is Purush, Pura Isha, Iti Purusha, that full, complete, and perfect consciousness. And there's Prakriti. Pra means before. Kri means becoming. Iti means this. That Prakriti. What was before this became? If consciousness is the efficient cause, then Prakriti, nature, is the material cause. So that's the energy which is kinetic, that is moving, that is transforming, evolving. So when we're talking about nature, we're talking about the capacity to evolve into something else and the manifestation that it has evolved into. That's my best try in 30 words or less.
Nirmalananda from North Carolina is asking, does verse 14 describe the ancient attitude of the Vedas?
Absolutely it does, Nirmalananda. Namaste. And namaste to Trish as well. All existence evolves from food. This is totally Vedic philosophy. And the food comes from rain. Indra is the lord of rain. Britra is the cloud. The sun is the light of wisdom. The cloud sucks up all the water, which is the nourishment from the earth. And the cloud rises and obscures the sun, which is the light of wisdom. And so wisdom is hidden behind the cloud. When we make sacrifice, we pray to Indra, and he takes his thunderbolt of illumination and strikes the cloud. The cloud breaks, pours down the nourishment to the earth, brings forth the food, the cloud dissipates, and out comes the sun, and everyone is united with wisdom again. And this is the allegory of the Vedas.
Swamiji, question from Chetan from Fairfield. Some people say that it's not possible to recite to tell the whole Gita, which takes about 3 hours to recite at the battleground when 2 warring armies are standing against each other. They say Sri Krishna said only a few shlokas and the rest of the Gita is a subsequent interpolation. What are Swamiji's views on this assertion of some people who call themselves learned men?
Oh, namaste, Chetan. Namaste, Ishwari. Do you know, it would be possible, everyone was so mesmerized by the sight of Krishna, Vasudeva, standing on this magnificent chariot, giving this magnificent discourse to Arjuna. Even if they couldn't hear it or understand it all, still, the sight of Krishna talking to Arjuna was enough to put a stop, to postpone the war until the completion of the discourse. But Chetan, we began our discussion of the Bhagavad Gita stating from the outset that we are not approaching this study as historians. ignorance. We are not approaching this study as philosophers. We're not approaching this study as theologists. We are approaching this study as sadhus, and I am not concerned with how Krishna helped Arjuna to resolve his dilemma. I'm concerned about how he's going to help me solve mine. So every shloka that we interpret, every verse that we translate and expound upon, we are looking for resources and inspiration through which we can solve all of our personal dilemmas. We're not concerned really with the history of it. But yes, see, there's the story of the farmer who heard the pundit discoursing on Gita in Sanskrit. And the farmer was sitting in the back of the temple crying, and the pundit went on and on and on, as pundits do. And at the end of his discourse, the hall was emptied, everyone went home, and the farmer was still sitting there crying. And the pundit went up to the farmer and said, "Hey, farmer, you're obviously not a Sanskrit scholar. You probably didn't understand a word that I said. How come you're crying?" And the farmer replied, "You're absolutely right, Panditji. I didn't understand one word that you said, but as you were speaking, I saw Krishna standing on the chariot, delivering the same discourse to Arjuna, and I couldn't hold back my tears because the sight was so beautiful." So here was Krishna standing on the chariot discussing with Arjuna. Here were the Kauravas and here were the Pandavas in the midst of the battlefield, and everyone stood still. Other questions, please.
Swamiji, a question from Kumari from Vallejo. Is it necessary to include practices from all the 4 yogas, karma, bhakti, jnana and raja, in one spiritual sadhana, or if we are inclined to do one specific yoga or perhaps 2, can we practice that yoga exclusively? Are the yogas equally effective in spiritual practice or together in combination?
Namaste, Kumari. I hope your flu is getting better. And please take blessings for good health. Absolutely, it is impossible to segregate the yogas. Where one is present, all 4 are present. There is no way that you can have any meditation without action. There is no way that you can have any meditation without devotion. You must be devoted to the subject in order to pay attention to it. And you will pay attention insofar as you are devoted. If you're a little bit devoted, you'll casually pay attention. And the same is true with knowledge. You can't learn knowledge without paying attention. You can't apply knowledge without meditation, without thinking about what you're going to say. You can't say it without devotion. And the very speaking of it is an action. There is no way to dissect yoga and divide it into dhyan, gyan, karma, and bhakti. There is no way, but we have done it in the Bhagavad Gita just so that we can understand the intrinsic elements of what is yoga. So yes, the 4 yogas are in harmony all the time when we are in harmony. And we are practicing all of them in varying degrees of intensity at every action that we perform.
The question from Nanda from San Jose. How can one best use the Bhagavad Gita in one sadhana? Please give us your recommendations.
Just what we're doing right now. Read it, chant it, breathe it, study it, analyze it, see how to apply it in our lives. Just what we're doing right now. all of the appendages of sadhana. We can build a spiritual discipline around the Bhagavad Gita and then take other scriptures as collateral readings and let that amplify and enhance, embellish our sadhana. The Bhagavad Gita is a magnificent statement of the goal. Please understand the goal as becoming a tool in the hands of God.
So a question from Chetan from Fairfield.
Yes, Chetan, namaste.
He gives many examples from the Bhagavatam where he says Rishi Parashar said Ved Vyas was conceived, born, grew up to adulthood in a very short time. How do we reconcile the concept of morality as described by Arjuna as a reason for not fighting, Bhishma's pledge of lifelong brahmacharya versus raising of children by Vyas on the wives of his stepbrothers on the orders of Queen Satyavati to continue the lineage? Can we say that it's not the action per se that matters, but the attitude and motive behind it?
Namaste, you are extremely accurate. You are extremely accurate. It is the intention, the motivation for this sankalpa. So when Bhishma said that I'm not going to engender children and that is my sankalpa, he stood fast by his promise. And when Vedvyas said, I have the sankalpa to engender children through my brother's wives, then I have the duty, the obligation to prolong the longevity of the royal family. And this is my sankalpa. Both were acting in accordance with Dharma. There is no question of morality in either of their actions. Morality is when we have a confusion of attitudes, and I know it to be a wrong action, and yet I perform anyway. Then the question of morality arises. Please, sir.
In verse 12, they talk about this attitude of sacrifice.
Yes.
Can you explain a little bit, what is this attitude of sacrifice?
Yes, the attitude of sacrifice is the attitude of union, the attitude of equilibrium, the attitude of giving up my selfishness for a greater benefit. So here we are maintaining, deeply intuiting the attitude of sacrifice. The gods will bestow the highest enjoyment immediately, as soon as we intuit that attitude. In that way we get to enjoy. That is the enjoyment. So here we have the yajna is huge, the union, the unity between the wearer of the body and the activity that it's performing. And it's a pure activity with a pure intention, with a clear goal, which can be verified empirically. Now, we have an attitude of sacrifice. We have pure intentions, and we want the best. Surrendering our selfishness. This is wanting the best. Are there other questions?
Swamiji, Mani from Pinole, California, in verse 17 and 18, it seems that the one who is absorbed in God is no longer enjoined to act. If we wish to do intense sadhana and tapasya, must we continue to perform worldly duties?
Absolutely. Mea culpa. Mea culpa. Mea maximal culpa. Yes, Moni, I'm sorry, even though there are two types of people who climb the mountain, no one gets to stay on top. Either you find what you're looking for and have to come down to share it, or you don't find what you're looking for and you have to come down because you got hungry. But nobody gets to stay on top. We are enjoined to act. We are required, it's incumbent upon us. And we act in various ways according to the circumstances that prevail. How can we be most effective as a tool in the hands of God? Circumstances themselves will dictate that to us. We'll understand. We will understand immediately when the circumstances confront us. We will understand what is our highest and best use in the hand of God.
Question from Wendy from New Jersey.
Namaste, Wendy.
When we have desires to do something that appears to be good, as in helping others, how can we distinguish if it is selfish just to feel good about ourselves or pure?
Well, there are two parts of the equation. The first is seeking to put others in a greater state of harmony in accordance with their desire to move into that state of harmony, so that we're doing a good without imposing upon them our view, without imposing our view upon them. And the second is, what is the remuneration or the recompense or the reward that we're seeking from performing this action? If performing the action fills us with so much love and so much joy that whether any fruit is derived in the future or not is inconsequential, then we are free from attachment and free from selfishness. When we perform the action, if we are not struggling to impose our personal view on another, then we are free from attachment. If we seek to act for the betterment of others, for the upliftment of others, and just only want to place them in a better place, then we're free from attachment. I think these could be some of the criteria by which we discriminate what puts us in a better